Hey guys, welcome back to Jurassic Peck Farms. I'm Marjorie, and today I'm going to be going over a few things that you might want to think about when you're getting chickens. I'm also going to be going over some of the breeds that I have and some of the breeds that I really like and that I think might be really good if you're a beginner or if you want a little bit more of a challenge or just even just a little bit more variety in your flock. These are some things that you're going to want to think about. So first, what you're going to want to think about is, why do you want chickens? Do you want chickens for the eggs? Do you want them for meat? Do you want both? These are things that you want to kind of think about because certain breeds are really good for just like meat. They have just meat birds that you can grow a very short time span. I personally haven't done that. It is on the list of things to do, but right now my chickens are mostly my pets. They can retire here. They can live out their best life here, and really they just have that one bad day on the farm. But I just use my chickens for eggs. So for me, I wanted to get chickens that laid a good amount of eggs a week, 4 to 6, just so that I had enough eggs to get through my weekly amount of eggs that I usually eat. Now, most people probably don't need as many eggs as I have. I do share with my friends and my family, and I do sell some eggs on the side as well. The other thing you want to think about is, how many eggs do you want? How many eggs are you going to eat? How many eggs is your family going to eat? Does your family even like eggs? If your family doesn't even like eggs and you just want a chicken for a pet, you still really want to have 3 of them because they are a flock animal. That being said, you also want to think about, how many chickens can you have on your property? How many are you allowed to have? If you're in a residential zone, you might only be able to have about 3 to 5 chickens. That's kind of average. Most neighborhoods will allow that 3 to 5 chicken in your backyard. Now you also have to think about, do you want a rooster? If you want a rooster, you don't necessarily need one to have chickens just to have eggs. But if you'd like a rooster for extra flock protection or just something really cool to have in your backyard, there are some really beautiful roosters out there. Or maybe you want to hatch out your own baby chicks the next year and have a more sustainable chicken flock that you can have where you don't have to buy chicks every year. You don't need a rooster to have eggs. Chickens are going to lay those eggs no matter what. But if you want baby chicks, you do need a rooster. That can also help you decide on what kind of chicken breeds you want. If you want your chickens to raise their own baby chicks, there are certain breeds that are really good at raising their own, hatching and raising their own baby chicks. There are some that are just, for lack of a better phrase, not very good chicken moms. They do not care. They will not sit on eggs. You might get one out of the breed that does, but in general, that breed does not sit on its own eggs. You also need to think about how much room you have. Are you going to keep them in a smaller coop that you're going to move around your yard? Are they going to be in a stationary coop? Are you going to have like a big range area like I have? My chicken coop area is like 50 by 30. I have that whole thing netted in. So you have to know like what predators are in your area. Are you just in a neighborhood and just want 3 chickens and you're going to have plenty of safe space for them to run around? Or are you going to keep them in a smaller enclosed coop? Give them some free range time when you're outside. Those are all things you want to think about. You also need to think about your climate. If you're in a really cold climate, there are some really great chicken breeds for a really cold climate. There are also really good chicken breeds for hot climates as well. And a lot of the chickens that you can get are kind of dual. They can be hot or cold. The same goes with chickens for meat. There are some chickens that are really good for both meat and egg production. And if you're looking to have a sustainable flock, that might be something you want to look into. Versus if you just want eggs, there are some really good chickens that are very sweet and friendly that you can just get a couple of and have as your backyard flock. It gets really exciting when you get to pick out what chickens you want. For me, I have a very mixed flock. I love just variety of the different chickens. They all have their own personality, even though they are in their own breed. They do have similar characteristics, but you might get a chicken that's supposed to be really sweet, docile, and friendly, and it just has its own personality where it just kind of likes to be left alone. That doesn't mean that the rest of the breed's like that. I actually had a few chickens like that I was told were going to be really sweet and friendly, and I had one. She was sweet, but I wouldn't call her friendly. She liked to keep her distance, but she wasn't mean. She never attacked me. So you kind of just have to know, do you have kids that you want to have pick up your chickens? Are you going to want them to be in your lap all the time? A lot of breeds you can train to do that, just depending on how much you hold them when they're little and how much you like handle them. Just like any animal. But then there are some that just really, no matter how much you handle them, just really would prefer to be on their own. They would rather be seen and not held. They might still come close to you and eat snacks out of your hand, but they might not particularly want to be picked up or put on a leash or just sit in your lap to relax. So the other thing you might want to think about is what you're going to feed them. If you're going to be putting them on grass, then you might not need as much feed. This goes into how many that you're going to have. Most chickens, there's chicken feed. You can get chicken food at the store. You can go to your local farm store, you can get it online. Are you gonna feed them organic feed? Are you gonna just feed them regular food like that you can get like Purina or something like that? I personally do Scratch and Peck. They're not a sponsor, but I do love their feed. They're also kind of local to me here in the Pacific Northwest. That might not be an option for you where you live. So you kind of want to research what kind of food you're gonna be giving them and how much they're gonna eat. The more chickens you have, the more feed there is. So if you want to just start small, I recommend doing a flock of 3 to 5. Pick your favorites, pick ones that are going to be good for you, and then you'll be able to make a decision on if you want to go more. I will tell you, chicken math is real. So be honest with yourself and start small, okay? Really start small. It's just easier that way. So chickens are flock animals, so you will need at least 3. I know you see a lot of people maybe on Instagram with like 1 chicken indoors or 2 chickens indoors. I don't keep my chickens indoors. If you keep chickens inside and you don't want poop all over your floor, counters, or wherever they decide to roost and nest, you need to put a diaper on them, which then you will need to change quite frequently. Chickens, I'm sure a couple could be potty trained. I'm sure that's happened, but just in general, they just poop whenever they feel like it. It's the freedom of being a chicken, I guess. So if you, I recommend you keep them outside. They're usually happier that way. You can still go out and visit them. They mostly will be just fine. And then of course, please make sure you know where you're gonna house them. If you're gonna have a small pre-built coop, if you're gonna build a coop, whatever it is, make sure you have that coop ready before your chickens arrive, because you might get baby chicks and those baby chicks are pretty much ready to go outside after 12 weeks. Or you might go get some already started chickens from somebody else, like buying adult hens. They need a place that's safe and clean and gives them all of their needs. So just a couple things about chickens. The other thing you can think about is there are what we call bantam breeds. They're smaller. They're usually like 2 to 3 pounds, sometimes maybe 4. They're tinier chickens. So like the Silkies are considered bantams. I have some bantam Cochins. I have bantam Brahmas. I have a bantam Easter egger, blueberry. Like they're all really fun breeds. So if you want like smaller chickens, they do lay a smaller egg, so just keep that in mind. If you're getting a smaller chicken and you're wanting a lot of eggs and you can only have 3, bantams might not be for you unless you're really confined on space. They still need room to run around and be a chicken, but they are smaller. They're easier to handle for kids, especially like the Cochins. Or my Brahma was Soup Nugget. She was like the sweetest little chicken ever. I could like pick her up and carry her around. We'd walk out and get the mail together. She was really chill. She was kind of like a Silkie. And she would come up to me and like, she would jump on if I was sitting down, she would jump on me. Now we're going to get into the fun part. Okay. What kind of chickens do I like? What kind of chickens did I find helpful that somebody recommended for me when I was first starting? And, what's going to be right for you? So like I said, there are a bunch of different breeds. There are a bunch of different websites that sell chickens. You could just go to your local farm store. You could look up online and find a local farm that's selling chicks in the spring. I personally get most of my chicks from Meyer Hatchery. I'm one of their brand ambassadors, and I just really do love getting chickens from them. You can order as few as 3, and it usually starts in April. And you can mix and match. You don't have to order 5 of one and 5 of another. You can mix and match whatever chicken breeds you'd like together. And they have a very comprehensive website of like all the different types of chicken breeds. This is just kind of my rundown over my 6 years of having chickens that hopefully will help you kind of figure out what you're looking for. I don't particularly have them in any order, but I have chickens that I will give you my favorite chicken of all time, just based on how much I really enjoy having them around. These aren't in any particular order, but I will go through the ones that I think are the best for like beginner chicken keepers, and if you want a calmer flock. Okay, starting off at the top, a breed that was recommended to me when I first started were Orpingtons. So specifically the buff Orpington. They do come in a variety of colors. They have buff, which is like a tan. I have a lavender Orpington right now. They come in like a Jubilee, which is like a dark brown with like speckles on it. It's a really pretty bird, and they have chocolate. So they come in a variety of colors. I think the buff Orpington and lavender Orpingtons are probably the ones you'll find the most frequently. They are a really sweet breed. They look a little bigger than they are because their feathers just happen to fluff out a little more. They are very hardy. They are dual purpose. They get about 4 to 6 eggs per week, lighter brown eggs usually, sometimes even on the pinker side, but you know, they are cold hardy. They do really well, and they are really sweet. Now, they say they're quiet, and I guess they are. But the first one I had named Waffle, she was loud. She loved to let everybody know she was around all the time. She was very chatty. She would talk to you all the time, and it wasn't anything that was super annoying or obnoxious or whatever, but she was louder. Now I have had a few later, like my lavender Orpington, super quiet. Both of them have been super quiet, super calm. They'll come up to you. They'll eat out of your hand. Like Waffle used to sit on my lap. They're ones that you can kind of train when they're younger to just be very social with you. So that is a really good choice. It's also really good if, like, you know, you have kids. It's a good breed for that. The second one are barred Plymouth Rocks. I've had a couple in my lifetime. Louise was one of the first chickens I ever had. She literally was one of the sweetest, kindest chickens I ever owned. She would jump up on my lap if I sat down. She was very quiet. She was very calm. She was kind of higher up in the pecking order in the flock itself, so that might have helped, but they are a bigger bird. They are dual purpose. They were made obviously for colder climates, but like they're pretty good in any climate, and they do lay large to extra large eggs, and you'll get like 5 or 6 of them a week. So they are a really good layer. And they're a really pretty bird. I really enjoyed them. They were always so calm. She was one that would always come up, and like she was one of the first ones to like welcome me, especially if I squatted down. She'd be right over there talking to me, doing her little chirp thing. But they are very quiet, and they're a great bird. So I highly recommend the Barred Rock. Marans. I have several Marans in my flock right now. I love them all. They are all very sweet. I have 2 of the black copper Marans that lay those dark brown eggs. In fact, they are the darkest brown egg layer of all the Marans. You have the golden cuckoo Maran. She is very sweet. She lays kind of like mine does lay a darker egg with a lot of speckles on it, and they will lay a speckled egg. There are a bunch of different colors. I have a splash Maran, Sassy. You'll see her. You'll hear me talk to her every once in a while on the videos. She's super friendly. She always comes up to me. My copper Marans are also friendly. They'll come and chat. I don't necessarily pick them up. Sassy will let me pick her up, but I think that's just like a breed difference and like a personality of a chicken. So once again, like they're sweet. They're not very loud. I mean, Sassy does sass me every once in a while, but she's not super loud. They're dual purpose, and they're a really cool bird. They do have feathered feet, and they do have like a bigger comb. So, you know, if you're living in a really cold climate, that might be something just to think about where you get like below 0. But honestly, if you're taking care of your chickens and they have a place to go, you'll probably be fine. But I do love the feathered feet as well. That's just something I enjoy because it's funny, it's weird, and I like it. The Wyandottes. I got a Wyandotte. I got a golden lace Wyandotte of my first chickens that I owned. Her name was Kung Pao, and they're supposed to be extremely friendly and sweet. And I will say, I now have those 2 silver lace Wyandottes in the back, and they are super friendly. They are actually camera hogs. I can't go anywhere without them coming up to me, getting on the camera, wanting to be around me. Like, they're very friendly, and I can mostly pick them up. I will say Kung Pao, on the other hand, friendly, very nice, but definitely she has her name for a reason. She was an alpha chicken in the flock, and she told everybody where they needed to go, and that just might be how she was in her flock. You know, she was never mean to me. She wasn't really mean to the other chickens. She wasn't super loud. She was actually very quiet, and I did get about 4 to 6 brown eggs from her a week. You know, they are very cold hardy, and they are dual purpose. They have what we call a pea comb, which is like a flat comb instead of like one that sticks up. So that's what makes them really good for like a cold weather. The smaller the comb, the less frostbite they can get. But I mean, I loved them. The Wyandottes are beautiful birds. There's a bunch. There's the golden laced, there's the silver laced, which are the two that I've had. There's a blue laced one, and I think there's a Dominique one, which is basically just a white chicken with like there's some black feathers on the neck, and I think on the tail. Great birds. They lay a lot. They're dual purpose. Like, and honestly, they are calm, but I wouldn't say that like they were overly friendly. But I mean, the ones I have now are. So once again, different personalities for each bird. Plus, they're just really pretty. One of the chickens that was recommended to me was a black Australorp. I actually got 2 of them in my first flock, and they are my 2 girls that are still around to this day. I'm very happy. They are 6 years old now. They don't lay as much now, but they still give me about 3 eggs a week, which is pretty good for chickens of that age. When they're younger, they'll lay about 4 to 6 large to extra large eggs a week. They're docile and they are friendly. They are very quiet. Once again, they weren't ones that were particularly like would come up and sit on my lap, but the older they get, the more they've been that way. They come up and talk to me a lot more. They just do their little chicken chitter chat to me, which is always fun. What I loved about the black Australorps when I was researching them is that when their feathers hit the sun, especially their wing feathers, they have like this green sheen to them. It's actually really cool, kind of like the Cayuga ducks, and some of my other black chickens are like that too. Like if they have darker feathers, it'll have like a green hue to it. But personally, I just thought I got 2 of them. They lay great eggs. They've always been really sweet. I've never had any health problems with them. Clearly, they're the longest living chickens I have right now, and I think they make a great addition to a flock. And just some other fun ones that, like, after I got my first round of chickens that I found I really liked and I wanted to try. Cochins. I've only had bantam cochins. I haven't had a regular size cochin, but I have had a bunch of different bantam cochins. I currently have one in my flock, and she honestly is super sweet. I'm tempted to get another one, but like, I need to slow down. They're sweet birds. They can look a little larger than they actually are. They have like a huge tail feather plume usually. And they have feathered feet. They just look rounder than they are because they're just fluffy. They can go broody. So if you're wanting baby chicks, this might be a really good option for you because they'll sit on eggs. They do go broody. The bantams I have always gone broody, and they would hatch out chicks if I gave them an option. The cochins also come in a bunch of different colors, so if you're looking for like a little diversity in your flock, you can get it through that. And then last, Welsummers. I actually added one to my flock the second year that I had gotten chickens because I wanted a darker brown speckled egg, which I thought would be really cool. And honestly, she is a beautiful bird. She's good in any climate. They lay those dark brown eggs about 4 to 6 a week. And actually, fun fact, the rooster that is on the cornflakes box is a Welsummer. So if you want a rooster and you want a cool looking rooster, you can get one of those. I have never had one, so I can't speak to how docile or friendly they are. I know certain roosters can get really aggressive, so I can't give you advice on the roosters. I will say that if I was going to get one, I would probably get either a Silkie or a Cochin or even a Brahma. And then lastly, on the ones that like I would recommend, but this is a bigger breed, so you can get a bantam size of these, which is, I've never had the regular size of these, but Brahma. So I've had buff Brahmas. They come in white, and I think they come in like a striped color of some sort. But I've only had the bantams, and the bantams are very sweet. They're kind of a little slower. They are kind of like the Cochins, where they have like a bigger, like fluffier appearance. But the regular sized Brahmas, they're really large birds. So like if you're looking, like, I don't know if any of you have seen that video of a giant rooster coming out of a hen house and he looks like he's like halfway up to your waist. That's a Brahma. That's a rooster. I think that's probably a little excessive and not normal, but they do get very large. So if you're looking for a larger bird, they are very cold hardy and they're a little slower. So they don't like necessarily like aggressively run around. But I've enjoyed my bantams. I've always wanted to get a bigger one, but I just haven't bit the bullet on it yet. My favorite chicken to have in my flock, I'm not gonna lie, it's the Silkie. I know they don't lay very many eggs. Like if I could only have 3 chickens, I honestly probably wouldn't get a Silkie because I do eat a decent amount of eggs. I might like sneak one in there just so I could have some fun. But I love the Silkies. They have feathered feet, they have 5 toes, they have blue earlobes. They're super sweet. Like if you handle them from when they're little, you can you can pick them up anytime. Like, you might need to trim their feathers on their like poof, because they do get, it is hard for them to see. They don't do great in cold weather, but I've had some cold weather here and they've been fine. You just have to make sure you have, you know, the right coop for them and the right area for them to stay dry. I mean, I know they're not supposed to get wet, which is what I was worried about here in the Pacific Northwest. The reason silkies have like this fluffy feathering is because they don't have the same barbs that most chickens have in their feather that keeps the rain from coming in. They literally just have like a downy fluffy feather that looks like fur. And so I was told that they won't do well because it's wet and rainy up here. I will tell you, Falcor, my white silkie, and Hey, my black silkie, my first two that I had, they love being in the rain. In fact, they love being in the rain so much they were always soaking wet. They'd always go into the coop at night. The coop was dry. They'd come out in the morning and they'd be dry. It's just, you have to make sure you have the right accommodations if you're going to get a chicken that might not do well in your region. I will say silkies, unfortunately, I love them to death, but they will sometimes have a little more health problems than most because they are a specialty breed. And just so you know, I love silkies because they're a little derpy, but like, they're not the smartest chicken ever, but they are really fun. They're very sweet. They're great with kids, and they're just like a fun addition to have to your flock. And they come in a lot of different colors. The one thing that you're going to want to know about bantam chickens, though, is Meyer Hatchery can sex bantam chickens, but they are the only ones that will do it that I've found. I'm sure some other people can do it, but as of now, like the ones that will ship to you, as of this time, they are the only ones that can sex those chickens. Just something to keep in mind. So if you go to get those at a feed store, they're most likely going to be straight run chickens, and it's going to be a 50-50 shoot on whether you get a rooster or you get a hen. And if you're not allowed to have roosters, you might have to rehome them. Just fair warning. Okay, now on to some chickens that I like, but they can be a little more flighty or a little more not hands-on. They kind of like, they're not overly aggressive or anything, but they don't necessarily want to be held all the time, and they don't want to be snuggled. And once again, you might have one in your flock, but in my experience, out of the ones I've had, I haven't had one that really wants to be held. So the first one's Ameraucanas. I love Ameraucanas for their blue eggs. I love them for their poofy cheeks because they got little poofs on their cheeks. They're adorable. They're very, I mean, you know, mine aren't super loud, which is kind of nice. They lay about 4 to 6 eggs a week, and they are going to be real blue eggs. So that is what I like about them. I think they're awesome for that. They have a smaller comb, so they don't get frostbite as easily. And I have had some calm ones, but I've never had one where I can just like go up to it and pick it up. It's just maybe the personality of the bird, and that's totally fine. You know, I can get them if I need to in an emergency situation, but in general, like, listen, chickens I think can run like 8 miles an hour and humans can only run 7, and I'm not even close to that 7 miles an hour. So if I have to catch them, I have to like corner them, and it's like basketball in high school trying to guard somebody. It's not my favorite thing. Easter eggers, one of the cool things about Easter eggers is they're a crossbreed. So you don't really know what the final coloring of that bird's gonna be until it's grown. And that's really fun. They're always beautiful birds. They're always really fun. They mostly have like they have poofy cheeks, and just depending on where you get them from, they can be all sorts of colors. So they can look like one of your regular old barred rocks. They can look completely unique. Like I have 2 this year that I got that have like a blue-gray feather and a blue-gray outline on some of their feathers, especially their tail feathers, and they're really cool looking. I love them. I think they're great. They will come up to me, but they definitely don't want to be picked up. They would prefer to be left alone to their own devices, which is fine. And they lay like a blue-green egg, and I get about 4 to 5 of them a week. Okay, and then I have 2 breeds that I've had that weren't my favorites. Listen, they're still in my flock. I love them dearly, but I don't know if I'd get them again based solely on their personality. The Rhode Island Red, I did get one because I wanted a higher production brown egg layer. They lay 5 to 6 eggs a week. They are really cool red looking birds. They're really dual purpose. They are hardy in all climates, but she is probably my most aggressive bird with the other birds. She's not necessarily aggressive with me per se, like she doesn't chase me around. She's always first to the gate. She loves to forage. She loves to dig and scratch and, you know, eat all that, but she does cause a little bit of havoc in the coop sometime. Now that she's settled and she's been with the flock for about 4 years, it's a little bit better. It's not one that I probably would get again, just based on the fact that like she does cause a little bit of ruckus within the flock if like things aren't going her way. And that, once again, Rhode Island Reds are ones that people get, and they raise them in giant flocks where they get a ton of eggs. So if you want a ton of eggs and you just really enjoy them, that would be one for you. She doesn't like to be, my particular Rhode Island Red does not like to be picked up. Her name is Red, by the way. It is something to think about if you're wanting like a little more docile breed. There are definitely ones that you can get that lay just as many eggs. Now, I love this breed. I think they're fabulous. I love their hair. I love everything about them. It's just the two that I had were really, really flighty, and they were really difficult for me to get for them to go into the coop at night on their own, which for me is a necessity because I might not be home in time when it gets dark at 4. I might still be at work. And if they can't get back into the coop on time, you know, if something happens to them and something breaks into the run, it can get them. Or if it's really cold, you know, and they need to be inside at night, things can happen. So they were a little more high maintenance for me, and that's why I would just recommend, like, if you're gonna do them, like, be aware. They also were a little more on the flighty side, so even after I like trim their feathers, and that was the Polish. The Polish are so cool. They have like these giant poofs of feathers on their head. They come in a bunch of different colors. They are a lighter bird. They do lay like, I think 3 to 5 eggs a week. They're a wider egg. They're like medium size. I wouldn't say that they were like super easy because they do run around if you need to catch them, and then or they wouldn't make it back in. So even after I trimmed their feathers and gave them a nice mohawk, they still struggled just with like everything. They were fine if I picked them up, but I think that's really just because they couldn't like see, so they didn't know what was going on. If you want to try one, I say go ahead, but if you're only getting like 3, maybe wait until you get a little more experience and then see if it's really something that you want to like go after. They're great birds, they're just not for me. All right, guys, well, just some things to remember. So when you're planning your flock, you want to know how many chickens you can have in your area, how many you actually have room for, and how many you can have, where you're going to house them, what kind of climate you have, and how many eggs you want. Or do you just want eggs? Do you want eggs and meat? Like, you need to know what you're going to be using it for. And honestly, whatever brings you joy. So if you have a chicken that you really think you're going to really love and you're going to want, those are the ones you want in your flock anyway. You just have to know your why. If you don't know why you want chickens or which one is going to bring you joy, I know that decisions can be tough, but honestly, those are some of the things that I really thought about when I was getting them. I still wanted to get those Silkies because they brought me so much happiness when I got them. But this is Sassy, so this is like this is a regular normal sized bird. You can kind of see how big she is. She's about 7 or 8 pounds, probably closer to 8. She's one of my bigger ones, but she is very friendly. She's very nice. So if you're looking for a nice, like, hardy breed, I would say the Marans, Orpingtons, the Barred Rocks, and then of course the Australorps. I hope this was helpful for you today, guys. I hope you learned something about chickens and about maybe something that you might want to have in your flock, or maybe you want to try. This is by nowhere the total different types of chickens I have, but this is kind of a general overview of ones I like and ones I thought did really well up here for me in the Pacific Northwest, and ones that, you know, if I'm just starting, I might not want to start with. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed, guys. I'll see you next time.